Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to explain to you why the Supreme Court has already given Trump presidential immunity and why an appeals court decision will simply be overturned by the Supreme Court, like the Colorado decision and future convictions. Perhaps even likely also in Georgia because of what's going on. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'll have a live stream this evening at around 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Wanted to do an upload to explain to you the very good news if you're supporting President Trump. A couple of days ago, actually a little over 2 weeks ago, or around 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court told Jack Smith that they will not even look at any case or any request revolving Trump's immunity as president because Trump was immune from prosecution for a speech. The Supreme Court basically told Jack Smith he did not overthrow or try to rebel against the government. He's not even being indicted for that. He performed a speech. He did not know the people who committed crimes. The Federal Bureau of Investigation did not find any organized effort to rebel against the country. And we're not even looking at the request. So in big victory for Trump, this is Vox, not a Trump publication. The Supreme Court told Jack Smith to go away. The Supreme Court just gave him a significant assist. And so liberal publications have already stated Trump has gotten a huge victory from the Supreme Court regarding presidential immunity. The appeals court today said, well, if Trump ordered SEAL Team 6 to eliminate his opponent, would he be then immune from prosecution? Again, this is completely absurd. First of all, there would be enough evidence to convict Trump in the Senate after an impeachment. So he would be impeached, then convicted in the Senate, then convicted in a local court. Then there would be enough evidence to convict him in a court of law, not a special counsel, not through a special counsel. So you would have enough evidence to convict a president for committing that crime, either within D.C. I mean, there's so many other scenarios. If somebody actually committed an actual crime of that nature in office, it wouldn't be like that's not the same. Accusing a president of actually ending someone's life by ordering that person's demise is different from he performed a speech, which is what Jack Smith is indicting him on, and that speech led to criminal activity, and that speech tried to interfere with democracy. Very different. You're making absurd leaps of logic saying that Trump is not immune from a speech when he didn't tell anyone to commit a crime. Very different from Trump or any president ordering the end of someone's life. Do you see maybe there's a difference in that morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats? Furthermore, there's no direct evidence. There would be direct evidence in any trial where somebody orders the end of another person's life. So they're taking, as always, a pet project, this effort to interfere, this effort to try to harm Trump politically by saying that the criminals of that day were inspired by Trump, ignoring the fact that doors were open on other sides of the building. And if you want to use the phrase mostly, which is what CNN used, peaceful, you could use that phrase. But see, Democrats had $1 billion to $2 billion in property damage that they looked the other way, and that summer because it benefited them politically. There was chaos and mayhem all throughout that summer. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. There was chaos and mayhem all throughout that summer, and I agree with why people demonstrated peacefully. But you're not going to see any liberal CNN or progressive YouTubers. You're not going to see them, any pundits on MSNBC. You're not going to see video of them at 2 a.m. in major cities of this country causing mayhem and chaos. Or even, you're not even going to really see them demonstrating that summer, because they all knew the demonstrations, unfortunately, led to complete chaos and mayhem and property damage and lives lost, and it wasn't a safe place to be, which is why, I mean, there were books written in defense of such behavior by people on the left. And there was a CNN journalist, a reporter, where a building was set ablaze behind him, and he said it was fiery but mostly peaceful demonstration. So I agree with why people demonstrated peacefully, but an entire summer, you had a breakdown in society. Kinzinger and Cheney never shed any tears. So the duplicitous nature of all of this is unbelievable. The double standard here, number one, Trump should have acknowledged. He should never have had that day, even though he voiced actually quite rational suspicion, especially when you see the way Democrats cheated Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was railroaded by his own political party, and it's so nefarious he didn't even address the injustice. So yeah, Trump is different from Bernie Sanders. Trump has a spine. Trump does not care. He's not, he doesn't worship the Republican or Democratic parties like Bernie Sanders worships the Democratic Party in his own way. And so Trump is going to voice his discontent, and they're trying to criminalize this discontent. Very different from ordering the end of someone's life. Of course you could be convicted of a heinous crime as president. You would have had to have committed the crime first. There would have had to have been evidence. The only evidence here is a speech. There is no evidence linking Trump. The Supreme Court also, when they overturned the Bob McDonnell conviction in 2016, stated that the precedent was a boundless definition of criminal behavior cannot put away a politician. The boundless definition here is that Trump was a criminal because he performed a speech voicing discontent, and that discontent led to criminal behavior. So therefore, Trump caused the criminal behavior. It is the most absurd argument in the world, because there are millions of wonderful, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrats who have only seen replays of the front of the building with, angry Trumpers. But the endless nightly confrontations between law enforcement and demonstrators that entire summer was okay because the reasons were justified. Well, I'm not equating the morality of both protests or demonstrations, but you focus on one day in January, and I agree with why people demonstrated peacefully in that summer. But you focus only one day in January, and you ignore an entire summer where there were curfews, where people couldn't walk the streets safely, where buildings were just torched and destroyed, and left-leaning organizations or left-leaning demonstrators were linked to that damage. And you ignore all of that, and there are books written in defense of that behavior, and CNN and others overtly try to cover up and say, well, it's mostly peaceful. And you focus on one day. That's why Trump is up in the polls, because of the most duplicitous, disingenuous political arguments from Democrats. Of course Trump is not immune from prosecution. He would have had to have committed an actual crime. This is when the former Honorable James Comey, director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, said no reasonable prosecutor would indict Clinton for classified and top secret intelligence on a servers, okay, which nobody knows how they got there. That's a crime in and of itself. He said, well, it's prosecutorial discretion. Where are the reasonable prosecutors with Trump? They want to imprison Trump for a speech in which, yes, the Supreme Court will say he had immunity as president. You can perform a speech as president. Okay, there has to be direct evidence that you've organized a plot to overthrow the country, and we don't have any because it never happened. It's an absurd nightmare or fantasy of Democrats. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. The Supreme Court has already ruled on this by not even looking at the request from Jack Smith. Give me your thoughts.